Okay, now lana sizosphetha question 2. Question 2 bakhuluma ngama-vectors lana. From a November 2018 question paper, Physical Sciences, Physics, paper 1, right? Okay, now, kulama vectors lawa we are given a point where two forces are acting at that given point, which is the center or the origin of the Cartesian plane, right? We have one force yaga 80, which is in line with the x-axis, and then sinani 50 Newton force being applied at an angle of 30 degrees against the x-axis, and then this is the y-axis, right? So lana bazofuna ukuthi calculate senza ama calculations around these forces. So right, kule statement bathi two forces of magnitudes 50 and 80 act at a point on a Cartesian plane in the directions shown in the sketch below, right? Njengoba ngishizo kuno 50 no 80, one being 30 degrees and then this one being in line with the x-axis. With 2.1, but give the correct term for the following description: a single vector having the same effect as two or more vectors together, right? That grade 11, that's why I was fundisang ama vectors. It's because of this effect abakhuluma ngayo, where you have two or more forces or vectors acting together, right? There's a so bheka lawo ma forces naga act at that point, ne? At that point, like in this case la, or where lawo ma forces are acta khona, azoba ne single effect, right? Asho nokubona nangabe upusha i-box mhlambe against umntana wakini, right? Against umntana wakini, nali box la, when you push in this direction, when I push in this direction, and then umntana again pusha in this direction, right? So the more nihlulisana, so eventually someone uzoloza maybe strength kanje, so or uvela umhlule ngamandla, then imove in your favor, yabona? So uchaza ukuthi this force actor in this direction was greater than the one by actor in this direction. So that's why the box eventually shall move the box, right? It's because of this effect abakhuluma ngayo, the resultant vector or the resultant force. Ngoba sikhuluma ngama vectors la, it's appropriate ukuthi si phrase as 2.1, sorry, it's resultant vector. It's a resultant vector whenever two or more vectors act together. There's a single vector having the same effect as two or more vectors acting together. Yiyo lelo kanje le term abakhuluma ngayo 2.1. 2.2, but calculate the magnitude of the vertical component of the 50 Newton force or vector, right? In our given sketch, we have a 50 Newton force. This 50 Newton force, it's actually a force actor on a angle against the x-axis. So it means the force just for you ngokuthi actor at an angle, because ukuthi izoba nama vectors, right? Ngoba i-actor in this direction izoba ne vector in this direction, in the x-axis the horizontal vector iphinde ibe nani the vertical vector. So lama vectors lawa nayo kuqala, which is the vertical vector, and then here's another one which is the horizontal vector. So this is the tail to tail method for drawing ama vectors, and allow ama vectors lawo including the 15 Newton asnika a triangle, a right angled triangle. So in order to calculate lawo amanye ama vectors, vertical and horizontal vectors, uzosebenzisa ama trigonometric ratios to find lawo ama vectors lawo. For instance, sifuna in this case 2.1, but to calculate the magnitude of the vertical component of the 15 Newton. So okay, I think it's in the sketch now. 2.2 Petri flu, guys, not corona, but Petri flu. Okay, the magnitude of the vertical component of the 50 Newton force. So according to i-Cartesian plane yethu sibonile mos ukuthi we have your y-axis, right? We have the y-axis, sine y-axis la, and then sibuye sibe the x-axis. Well, in this question about this drawing sketch, so just for simplicity and giving you a better explanation for this question, is provide a sketch. Lana no 80, and then Lana 15 Newton. So this is the vertical component. Maybe I'm a different pen. This is the vertical component, and then this is the horizontal component. You see the tail to tail method. So Lana 30 degrees. So check out the vertical component. Maybe it's not F. Let's say this is F Y, right? And then this is F X, right? This is F X. So tinasfuna the F Y, right? And then Lana it's 90 degrees, right? It's 90 degrees because you form a right angle triangle. So now 2.2.1, what is calculated Fy, right? And then check out, because and according to our trigonometric ratios, kwamele uma ufuna one side and then baguphe an angle and ufuna calculate this side, which is the opposite side, and then bagupha a hypotenuse. If the trigonometric ratio involve the opposite side as well as the hypotenuse, it's the sine. Exactly, it's the sine. It's sine 30 degrees is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, right? So sine 30 degrees is equal to opposite, which is Fy, divided by hypotenuse. The value of the hypotenuse is 50 Newton. So therefore I need to cross multiply to find Fy. So 1 times Fy is Fy, 50 times sine, as you work it out, it's 50 times sine 30 degrees is equal to 50 times sine 30 degrees is equal to 25 Newton. Yeah? It's 25 Newton upward. This is a vector, so Komelu provided a direction. Yeah? Komelu provided a direction. So for 2.2.1, our vertical component Fy is what? Is 25 Newtons up. Right, now 2.2.2, the magnitude of the resultant force. The magnitude of the resultant force. Okay. Sorry, 2.2.2. Again. The resultant force is what? Is the same effect a create to ama vectors I2 or more, right? According to the statement, please. So lanang na 2 yama vectors, but this one act at an angle. I am going to say my calculations wam directly. The 15 Newton I'm going to say directly into my calculations wam, right? So in things where I'm going to divide into components. I'm going to break into its components and then work out the resultant in the horizontal axis, and then work out the resultant on the vertical axis. As we have on the horizontal axis, I have an 80 and the horizontal component for the 50 Newton force, angisho. And then vertical I only have one force, which is bani Fy ephuma from the 50 Newton. So 90 izowenzeka ke manje. Before I can calculate the resultant magnitude of the resultant or net force, ne sakhumbula ngenzele example ngale box where upusha against umntana wakini, right? So with the force layer le, the force we apply and then the force we apply uloka umntana kini aya subtract, and then the one a greater obviously is taller the edge, right? So nala I have two forces, so komele ngiwasame up and then ngithola the resultant, right? For the fact that with lena I act at an angle, it means komele si break it into ama components wakhona, and then komele si ngoba ngina two yama components, one vertical and then one horizontal, komele si work ini ama resultant on the horizontal and then the resultant on the vertical axis. So wenza njalo ke, uyabona ukuthi chaza ukuthini, komele si calculate to fx, ne yofuneka si calculate to fx. So fx uzoba equal to okay, asibuyele la, fx unknown, and then we are given a hypotenuse and an angle. So yipi trigonometric ratio in a horizontal as well as the horizontal or the adjacent, and then you look at hypotenuse is what? It's cos. So it's cos 30 degrees. Sorry, cos 30 degrees is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. So fx is equal to cross multiply, it's 50 times, sorry, cos 30 degrees equal to 50 times cos 30 degrees is, I see round it off to, let's say 3 decimal places, fixed to 3 decimal places, it's 43,301 Newton. And then according to his sketch set, so the vector is pointing to the left, so it's left, right? It's going to be left, and then horizontally, yes, yes, nama forces I2, one to the left, another one to the right. So sizo calculator the resultant horizontal force is equal to what? Okay, asithi mhlambe the resultant horizontal force is about F R stands for resultant in the x-axis, equal to, and then we choose a direction again, let's say to the right is positive, so it's going to be positive 80 minus 43,301 is equal to 80 subtract 43,301 is equal to 36,699 Newton. Ngoba positive because ukuthini, it's going to be right, right? Is a pointer in the right direction. So horizontally I have a resultant force of 36,699 Newton to the right, and then vertically I have a resultant in a corner ubani, a resultant in1. There's no resultant because there's only one force a hectare, which is what? Fy. So naso resolve the structure less, yeah. Naso yo resolve le figure yakho le, so yabo ukuthi okay, no, actually the resultant in the horizontal axis, it's what? It's 36,699 Newtons, which is ubani FRX equal to, and then sinobani ke manje upward we have what? Upward We have an upward vector of Fya equal to 25 Newton being up, and then check the resultant force for lama luganje lawo, lama vectors lawo siqeda ukuwacalculate lawo, izoba the hypotenuse in a triangle. So lana it's 90. Well, by the way, whether lo Fy umdrawing ngapha or ngapha, it doesn't matter, ne? Because eventually ayokforma something like a triangle, lama vectors wakho, ama resultant vectors wakho in the horizontal as well as the vertical axis. So it's 25 Newton, and then it's going to be theta, right? It's going to be theta. So Fy is equal to this, Frx is equal to that. Therefore, resultant, it's going to be the hypotenuse of this triangle, right? It's going to be the resultant of this triangle. Ngoba ku 2.2.2, but calculate the magnitude of the resultant force. The resultant force The resultant force is the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse squared is equal to Frx squared plus Fy squared, ne? Theorem of Pythagoras, right? Therefore, R it's the square root of squared. R is equal to Frx 36,699 squared plus Fy 25. Therefore, nasi calculator sithola ukuthi answer yethu kuyoba ubani, square root of 36,699 squared plus 25 squared is equal to 44,405 newtons. So 2.2.2, this is our resultant. So in essence, now unama vectors on a Cartesian plane, komele resolve into their horizontal components and then into their vertical components. Then we are summarize the resultant in the horizontal axis 9, ne? And then the resultant in the vertical axis now. So the horizontal and the vertical now combine as a right angle triangle, and then the hypotenuse of that right angle triangle uzoba resultant force yakho, ne? So iphelela la ulo guys, 2.2.2. Now let's go for the last question, 2.2.3. Calculate the direction of the resultant force. Let's be back to this triangle. In this triangle, the angle between a resultant yakho as well as the adjacent side, always the angle between the hypotenuse and then the horizontal component or the adjacent side is okunikeza the direction of your resultant. So in other words, let's calculate to theta using our trigonometric ratios. So we can use the opposite and the adjacent. Since it's in a resultant, you can use any trigonometric ratio oyithandayo, sine, cos or tan, but mina ngizoprefera utan. Why? Le answer le ingaba wrong, ne? Ingaba wrong le answer le because ukuthini, someone angapunch calculator wrong and then approaches a wrong answer. So nazo ipuncha in, nazo to calculate to theta using sine or cos, uzoba nama problems because lena na lena well lento engikhulumayo ngoba nalo Fy nalo Fx bangaba wrong khona. But anyway, use any trigonometric ratio oyithandayo, ne? But mina ngiprefer utan. So tan theta is equal to Fy opposite Frx adjacent. Frx adjacent, then tan theta is over equal to Fy is 25 divided by Frx is 36 36,699 newtons. So therefore theta, second function tan 25 divided by 36,699. Theta is equal to shift tan 25 divided by 36,699. Therefore our answer is 34 sorry 34,263 degrees. 263 degrees. 34,263 degrees. So this is our answer for this question. Our answer for this question. Mara nawuthatha ukubheka nala kuba na 2 yama question, kuba na 2 yama triangles la, uyabona lento engiyicabangayo la. Check la, this and this asinikeza this triangle le. If ngithatha le vector le ngibeka la, and then this one, the vertical one ngibeke la, ngizoproduce this triangle. This triangle izongipha this theta, right? How about ngisuse le horizontal vector ngibeke lapha phezulu ibe so. Yabo ukuthi bana 2 yama triangle, triangle 1, triangle 2, ne? So it means kuba nomunye nenye angle ngala, yabona? So if vector yakho ingapha and then the vertical one iba ngapha, it's still sharp la, ne? Ngoba kusese tail to tail, isese grand nakhona. Unga calculate this angle or this angle, still uzothola right, ne? Uzothola right. So 2.3 is the last question for this question. It took longer than I expected, but I hope you gain something out of this lesson here today. And then in the description below ngizolinka ama questions amanye for this question paper. Your question 1, 2, 3, sorry, la ngenza question 2. So uzothola ama links for question 3, question 4, and then the rest of the questions in this question paper. So thanks for watching. Uma ngabe uyi-enjoyile, please leave a thumbs up. Nangabe una question, leave your question in the comment section. Nangabe you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. So thanks for watching. Bye bye.